Hi everyone. I needed an excuse to reread each Star Wars making of one more time, so I've asked myself the following question. What's the best concept art of the saga? Yeah, Star Wars universe creation is marked by a key step of pre-production, concept paintings. And we were quite lucky, since a lot of them are works of art on their own, so I've picked one for each episode. And this time only, we're gonna start with episode 4, to show how the techniques evolved over time. If you're not familiar with Star Wars concept art, get ready to be blown away. So here we go, and don't forget to let me know in the comments what would be your choice. To begin with episode 4, I must tell you a bit of history. When trying to pitch Star Wars, George Lucas faced an issue. No one understood a shit about his script. After a bunch of rejections, he decided to link to the script a file of paintings and hired Ralph McQuarrie for that, whom we can easily tell that Star Wars would have been way different without his talent. He started with 5 paintings, and right from start, Lucas was hooked. Note, a lot of elements in those early paintings would change as the script evolved, but you could already see the universe taking a familiar shape. Once Star Wars was on track, McQuarrie would keep on producing visuals to steer the artistic department. His process was to start with a few isolated studies, then a first draft, and then refining it with preliminary colored thumbnails before going full scale. All of his work is gold to me, so I'm gonna go for the easy but logic choice to pick his very first painting. R2 and 3PO leave the pod in the desert, whose vibe is perfectly ethereal, and which marked forever the design of the 2 Star Wars icons. I'm even gonna let 3PO's actor Anthony Daniels tell you about the first time he saw it.
During a rather desultory conversation, I noticed what I would learn were concept paintings decorating the office walls. George led me to one in particular. I stared. My world stopped. Ralph McQuarrie had created an evocative image that touched my soul. Standing on a sandy terrain against a rocky landscape with distant planets filling the sky, 3PO gazed out forlornly. Our eyes met, and he seemed yearning to walk out of the frame into my world, or I felt for me to climb over and join him in his. I sensed his vulnerability. Maybe he sensed mine. It was a truly strange moment.
Now, episode 5, and once again, what's striking is firstly the quality of the drawings, but also the extremely dynamic composition, almost already cinematic. By the way, his signature format was pretty wide, close to a film's aspect ratio. Alright, I think you got it, we have plenty of choice with McQuarrie's genius. And I'm gonna try really hard not just to spend the whole video reviewing each of his masterclass. I'm fond of Dawan's composition. I love the colors in this one, and the overall vibe of Dawan is amazing. My pick will go to one of the Hoth paintings. That low-angle one is superb, with the massive wisps of smoke over the Imperial walkers. It feels like we can practically hear the snowspeeders zooming by. For real, producing this before the Hoth sequences were made? Nah, that's pure genius. Episode 6 now, which is the last time McQuarrie contributed to a Star Wars movie. A major part of his paintings revolved around a story arc that would be deleted from the final script, in which Luke was brought on Coruscant to face the Emperor in his throne room, deep in an underground lava lake. Again, there's marvelous space battles visuals, super dynamic, but McQuarrie did them after ILM had worked on those sequences to fill a Return of the Jedi portfolio. So I'm rather gonna focus on paintings of the introduction on Tatooine that are especially beautiful, with that one that I found stunning. Luke completely surrounded in the evening light of his home planet. You can say goodbye to McQuarrie's art, who sadly left us in 2012, but whose influence on Star Wars will survive forever. Episode 1, new trilogy, new artist, so let me introduce you to Doug Chiang, artistic supervisor on the prequels. He inherited a more than heavy burden, how to be the next McQuarrie, both respecting the existing universe and bringing something new. Well, he did more than fine. Following in the footsteps of his predecessor, he worked on dynamic and very cinematic compositions, and the quality of his work has nothing to be ashamed of compared to the one of the master. We can even get some homages to McQuarrie's painting, like in this one. As for me, I'll pick that one from the pod race. With the huge explosion, one can already feel the intensity of the cult sequence. Then for episode 2, Chiang was held by 2 artists for the paintings. Ryan Church and Eric Timmons. Their method was a bit different, since they used digital painting software. They just worked faster and produced a lot of visuals, sometimes getting close to storyboarding when describing a same scene. For that reason, their drawings are sometimes a bit rougher, with silhouettes and outlines often less detailed. Well, it's just a style, and everyone can make his mind about it. But to give you an example, here's the same scene designed by Cheng and here by Timmons. Their visuals usually served as a reference for the CG artists, so many paintings turned themselves into actual film scenes. I find the journalist's illustrations from Church especially well made and epic, but to me, Doug Cheng's traditional paintings are even better, for instance that one. Even though they're still, I reckon we can perfectly feel the power of the clones' gunships. And finally, episode 3. This time, Cheng was no longer designing the concept paintings, so Timmons and Church took on the role of preliminary research, including this series of 7 planets on which the Clone War was supposed to happen at the beginning of the movie. Some of them would eventually find their way during the Order 66 sequence. The illustrators really let the creativity run wild, and we can only be frustrated not to have seen all those magnificent environments on screen. I love that Timmons painting of Padme watching the aftermath of Order 66. We can, by the way, feel the post-9/11 atmosphere in which were done those designs. But my final choice will go to Ryan Church and his series depicting the fight Obi-Wan vs Grievous, and particularly this one, so badass, with the Boga fighting the wheelback in the background. It just looks like a mythological portrayal of the confrontation. That's it, the video is almost over. We've got a hell of a selection that you just want to print and hang on the wall in wide format. I hope you've learned things about Star Wars creation. If you want more, go check my other videos that are full of concept arts. My last and final choice will go to McQuarrie's pioneering art. Just like Star Wars, it was the very first image that appeared on my channel. See you next time.
In the beginning, you hire somebody because of their work. I saw his work, it was fantastic, it was really beautiful. And met him, he was a very sweet guy, easy to get along with, and with the combination of those things, I said, let's go.